On this episode of Locked On Angels, if it's not one thing, it's another with this team. We'll tell you what happened in the loss yesterday against the Seattle Mariners. Plus, the Angels cut back on giving their players scouting info on the opposing pitcher. How'd that work out for them? We're going to get into all of that. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. If you want to give back for all the Super Halo content here by the Super Halo Bros, here's a couple things you can do. Best way you can help us out, leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. If you want to grab a shirt, a Super Halo Bros shirt, find the episode link in the description, and you can head on over to the Super Halo Bros shop. And if you're not subscribed already, what are you doing? Become an everyday or join us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube and jump in the comments section. It's the best way to be part of the conversation. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Thanks for being here with us, everybody, for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. Normally, you have the Frisch brothers here with you, but I am rolling solo. My brother Mike was unavailable today. Got a little a show going on. They're going on another show or something like that. So you got John Frisch on one half of the Super Halo Bros, one half of the hosts of Locked On Angels. Me and my brother Mike do this show 5 days a week, talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, we're sharing one thing Wash said the coaches are doing to help the Halo hitters, and that's not overloading them with information. We're going to find out how that worked out for him. One player that is improving offensively who's not in the majors. But first, let's get into the details from yesterday's game against the Seattle Mariners. It was a day game up in Seattle. The lineup looked a little bit different again on Wednesday. You had Zach Neto leading off, Nolan Schanuel playing first base. Mike Trout started in right field. Soler was DHing, Ohapi behind the dish. Rengifo over at third base. Gustavo Campero out in left field. And Kyron Paris in center field. Kevin Newman playing there at second base. Neto's back. Shortstop. I almost said shortstop. Adelin Ward had the day off. That quickly changed, but I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But the theme of this game, everyone, one step forward and two steps back. I'll get into the two steps back and tell you how this one went down. But let me talk about the steps forward. And one of those steps forward was scoring a run in the first inning. It's the first time since April 18th that the Angels have scored a run in the first inning of a game with runners on first and second and two outs. Ohapi goes the other way to score Nolan Schanuel from second. Love seeing Ohapi go the other way again. He did that on Tuesday night against the Mariners, hit one out, going with the pitch, changing their approach, and not trying to force a pitch into their swing path and their one-dimensional approach at the plate that we've been seeing. And guess what? In the bottom of the first, Tyler Anderson had a shutdown inning, so the Angels didn't give it away there, and that's a clue for how this one went. A step forward here, Gustavo Campero made an immediate impact from the beginning. He saved a double off the bat of Cal Raleigh out in left field. And so I don't know if Taylor Ward makes that play, but Gustavo Campero certainly did. Had some wheels on that one. That one looked like it could have easily landed if it wasn't Campero turning on the burners out there to get that fly out from Cal Raleigh. He takes a walk in his first at bat, proceeds to steal a base. I love Wayne Randazzo pointing out that Campero has the attention of the pitcher, Emerson Hancock, because he's paying attention to Campero at first, throwing over there, throwing behind him to second base. And this is the sort of thing that Mike mentioned on yesterday's show about Tuesday night's game regarding the guys on base. No one created chaos once they were on base. No one tried to steal anything. No one got the pitcher to throw over to try to get the runner out, but Campero did. And so he made an immediate impact as soon as he got into this game. Once again, in left field, makes an impact, creating havoc on the base paths. Good to see some life and some spark here from Gustavo Campero, making the most of his time in the majors. Now, one step forward was the hitting, sort of. And I'll get to that sort of here in a bit. But what I did like, and if you look at the line score, looks like a good day. 10 hits, 3 walks, only 4 strikeouts. 2 of those came from Kyron Paris, so it wasn't like the whole lineup was striking out as they have been doing. I like seeing productive outs. Campero got to third in the 4th inning. Neto tied it up with a fielder's choice. That was great to see. Tyler Anderson had a good day on the mound, ran into a little bit of trouble, didn't get a lot of help from the umpire back there. That guy was awful yesterday. 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, 5 strikeouts, and 2 walks. One of those walks shouldn't have been a walk. So I got to give a lot of credit to Tyler Anderson to continue what he's been doing this season, looking really good out there on the mound. Now, those were the one step forward notes that I had for you. But let me talk about the 2 steps back, because that's how it feels with this team. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. If it's not one thing, it's another. When the hitting's right, the pitching's off. When the pitching's right, the hitting's off. And that's all we've been seeing these last couple of weeks. 2 steps back starts with sloppy play. These guys didn't seem to have their head in the game after things took a turn about halfway through the game. I'll tell you what happened there. But Rengifo had a terrible day at third base. I know Yohan Moncada is out because he can't switch hit right now because of that thumb injury. But I believe he can throw, and also he can still bat from one side. So get that guy back over at third base. Forget about the switch hitting. Let him hit from one side of the plate and let him play third base again, because when he was on this team, I don't know, they were winning. He was taking walks. He was playing good defense. He had one bad night. I remember everyone piled on him, but he had good defense for the most part. Sloppy play continued with a pass ball to Randy Arozarena. That was strike 3. However, Cal Raleigh was at second base. He went to third on the pitch. Logan gets the air throwing to Rengifo. However, come on, Rengifo. Stop that ball. Don't let that go past you, right? So then Raleigh comes home. Cal Raleigh, I should say, comes home on that throw over to third. Another issue later on was no one's covering first base on a bunt attempt. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And then another sloppy team issue. Where's your head at, everyone? And why is no one communicating the plan here? So Ryan Johnson finished the inning for Reed Detmers. I'll talk about Detmers in just a second. But after he's done, he goes back to the mound. The problem is Jake Eder, the lefty, was supposed to face the lefty, J.P. Crawford. But since Johnson went to the mound, technically, and by the rules, he had to face a batter to start the inning, and J.P. Crawford got a base hit off of him. Fortunately, nothing came of that. But just, where's your head at, everyone? Why is no one telling Ryan, hey, don't go out there? Are we just spitting sunflower seeds and goofing around? Like, what are we doing in this dugout? Why is nobody communicating the plan here? Because that's Bush League. 2 steps back. These guys can't hit with runners in scoring position. So we finally get these guys changing their approach, doing some things. Logan O'Hoppe goes the other way for the second night in a row. Good stuff, right? 10 hits across the game. Not a ton of strikeouts. Yet we're back to where we started with not hitting with runners in scoring position. In the 7th inning, this is where things changed. Nolan Shawnoel walked. Joe Adell singled. Told you he had a day off. I'll tell you about that in a second. Jorge Soler grounded out, but it moved the runners over. Hey, productive out. I'll take it. Only 1 out. O'Hoppe gets up there. He fouls out to first base, and Rengifo grounds out to shortstop. And that was huge because it was 3-3 at that point. The Angels could have taken the lead, and instead, Reed Detmers comes in for relief of Tyler Anderson. Detmers still doesn't have a shutdown bone in his body. I know that he's come out there and pitched in low leverage behind in the time situations, but no shutdown bone in his body. Ron Washington can't manage a bullpen. And the whole reason they bring out Reed Detmers is so that they can keep the lefty Jorge Polanco out of the game. Remember, he killed the Angels on Tuesday night, torched them for 5 runs on 2 home runs. So Wash goes to Reed Detmers to keep the lefty Polanco out of the game. Then you have Rivas reach on an infield single. Samad Taylor reaches on a bunt because nobody's covering first base. What happened there, guys? No communication. Kevin Newman not going over there from second base. Sean Wells running in on it. Detmers is running after it. Sloppy defense. Sloppy play. The Mariners bat around in this inning, and they put up 6 runs. It made it 9-3. So why no Brock Burke, your high leverage lefty? You want to keep Polanco off the from getting into this game, and you want to keep him on the bench. Bring in Brock Burke. I know Detmers is supposed to be able to give you a couple innings. He certainly didn't here. And so maybe that was your plan, but that plan didn't work because Polanco did end up getting into the game. He fortunately popped out. But Rivas drives in another run and got on base again with an infield single in the same inning. And that's because the Mariners bat around. They add on a ton of runs in this one. So that's the 2 steps back to our 1 step forward. Hitting looked better. Things looked a little bit better. They took more walks. They struck out less times. They had 10 hits and only 3 runs to show for it. And it all came down to that 7th inning. The Angels not delivering when it mattered, and the Mariners doing that when they had the opportunity in the bottom of the 7th. Again, Rivas, 2 infield singles, keeps it going and gets it started, and he's just making contact, right? And that's been the big issue. The Angels haven't made much contact. Well, they made more contact, again, 10 hits, but not the kind of contact that matters, and that's the problem. Now, to top it all off, and probably you've been waiting for this news, Mike Trout left the game early. He hurt his knee running down the line and trying to stretch to get first base in time. It was his left knee, and the same one he had a meniscus tear in, and he came out to play the field in the 4th inning. But then Joe Adell took his spot in the batting order in the 5th. Now, Trout said he's already feeling better and had some tests. He's going to try to play tonight at the Big A versus the Tigers. Knowing Ron Washington, he's going to put him in center field for the first time this season, or he's going to have him in right field and not DH him and have Soler DH. That's just the logic all logic goes out the window, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me. So the Angels go winless on this 5-game road trip to Minnesota and Seattle. Gee, who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen that coming when they had to take a red eye to Minnesota? Certainly not me, right? Who could have seen that coming? All right. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, Ron Washington said the hitters have been getting too much information. TMI, he said. Well, how'd that work out for him? We're going to get into all of that coming right up. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV, bringing you endless entertainment. With 4K streaming, you can watch more than 1 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscription services like Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, and so much more. In addition to that, your Fire TV can also be an Xbox. You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You dive into hundreds of premium titles like EA Sports College Football 2025, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed, as well as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple. It's all on your Fire TV. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd generation, and the Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Is there such thing as TMI when it comes to baseball? Well, yeah, probably. But in this case, it's regarding the scouting reports. Now, the hitting for the Halos has been a topic of many conversations we've had this week. And after game one against the Mariners, we saw some improvements, some marginal improvements, baby steps, right? I even mentioned on yesterday's show, I feel like I'm going to get a ton of grief for this, but the fact is, I think there were some small steps forward. There were some small steps forward in yesterday's day game, but it wasn't quite enough. However, Wash did see the small improvements. He said the at-bats were better, more competitive. I agree. We were able to put some runs on the board in back-to-back innings, something that we haven't done in a while. Wash said he believes in his hitters. Now he wants to make sure they believe in themselves. He wants to make sure they believe in themselves, not himself. He also believes that one of the things that could have contributed to the team's slumping offense is what he described as an overload of information. Wash said, there's so much information now in baseball. Sometimes you let that information dictate how you go up there and have your at-bats. You've got to know which type of at-bats you're capable of having, and to have those at-bats and add that information to it instead of allowing that information to dictate how you go about your business. I think with all this information, sometimes these kids totally believe in it 100% so that they don't ever believe in themselves. So in response to that, Wash said the Angels have cut back on the scouting information they're providing to hitters. This started during the series against the Giants. The Angels did win that series, but they didn't score many runs in that one. If you remember, 4 of the 9 runs they scored in those 3 games came in 1 inning. After that series, entering last night, the Angels lost 6 of 7 games, batting under 200 and scoring 15 runs. Now, this is a great tweet from Beyond the Halo here, who looked into the before and after. So, again, the San Francisco series is when they cut back on the information provided. Before the San Francisco series, the Angels were averaging 4.3 runs per game. They had a 230 batting average, 292 on base, 419 slugging, a 100 weighted runs created plus, right there at league average, 6.7% walk rate, 24.5% K rate. This is the offense after the San Francisco series, in which they cut back on the scouting information. 2.3 runs per game, 174 batting average, 209 on base, 323 slugging, of 47 weighted runs created plus 53% worse than league average, 4.1% walk rate, 33.1% K rate. So, the Angels cut back on the scouting reports of the opposing pitcher because Ron Washington doesn't want to overwhelm them, give them too much information, TMI. He said you've got to know which type of at-bats you're capable of rather than going in there with information against that particular pitcher of the day. Didn't work out too well for them, did it? Didn't work out too well. The fact is, the offensive slide started once they pulled back on that information. Here, let me vamp a little bit, if you will. Stupid people are afraid of information. And I'm not calling anybody stupid on the Angels, but people who don't take the time to learn something or investigate something or want information about something is because they're afraid. If you're afraid to go on StatCast, right? Much more than exit velo, much more than launch angle. That's not what StatCast is. Go on Baseball Savant. You can find out a ton of information there. That's why you're an everydayer. That's why you're here, because you can leave a smarter fan and understand, oh, that's what's going on with Taylor Ward. Oh, that's what's going on with Mike Trout, right? Much more than just exit velos and launch angles. I know that's all you hear about on TV, but that's not the truth of it. And on the other side of that, you can learn a lot about the pitching. Remember, I brought this up a few times. Why the heck were the Angels swinging at 89, 90 miles an hour against Andrew Heaney and just whiffing right over that? Go on Baseball Savant. You can find the answer. And for the Angels to not be prepared against Andrew Heaney, gee, this guy who was with us for, 6 years? Is pitching real well, not pitching like he was when he was with us. What changed? I wonder. Maybe get the nerds up in the front office to look up why Andrew Heaney's doing so well. You can find that on Baseball Savant. I'm a nerd with a podcast who loves to dive into the numbers. Hate doing numbers in real life, but when it comes to baseball, I can't get enough of it. My wife, she's sick of it. She hates hearing. No, she doesn't hate hearing about it. She just goes, "That's great, honey. Oh, that's wonderful." But I say that because you got a pretty good sample size here of what was working and what's not working. And what hasn't worked is cutting back on the scouting reports about the opposing pitcher. How do they get their outs? Where do they throw their strikes? What off-speed pitches do they throw, and where do they throw them to get you out? Doesn't it seem obvious that that's what's been going wrong with the Halos? Sure, we talked about the hitting prep that Trout and Adele and Neto and Rengifo do. And some of them said, yeah, I like to look at the scouting report about, like Adele said, 10 minutes before the game, so it's fresh in my mind. I think that's great, because then you have a general idea of, all right, what's this guy going to throw me? How's he going to try to get me out? And you can see it with Joe Adele. His pitch selection is often much better than it's been the last 4 years that he's been up and down with the Halos. You can see the difference, and you can see the results. But the truth of the matter is, I said this yesterday on the show, if you are not presenting information in a way that makes sense to an athlete, a guy who has a job to do, don't make it their job to unlock and decipher and figure out and puzzle together the information that they should know. What you should do, and I don't know who's in charge of this. I don't know if it, again, analytics team gives it to Ron Washington and then he provides it. You got to condense it. We have 3 10-minute segments on our show each day. And I told you yesterday, I spent countless hours trying to condense good information for our everydayers so that it makes sense to them. But, and again, I'm not trying to call anybody stupid on the Angels. I just think stupid people are afraid of information. They're scared of what they don't know. And so they won't use that information. It's why people yell at clouds and scream at cloud. Old man yells at cloud. There you go. Maybe they scream it into a microphone on some podcast. They're scared of information because they are scared because they're not smart. That's what it comes down to. And so if you can't condense this in such a way that makes sense for the players and makes it useful, then yeah, Ron Washington's right. Get that information out of here. However, we see the results. Before San Francisco came to town, they had the scouting reports. They were doing a lot better than they have been the last 2 weeks. So somebody needs to get Ron Washington and give him that info to pass along to players. This was an issue with Mike Scioscia. I recognize that. They come from Scioscia and Wash are the same breed, right? The same mold. But if you can't use data right, if you can't use Baseball Savant right, you can't use StatCast right, then you're missing an entire portion of the game that matters. And if you don't know how to use it and you don't know how to communicate it to your players in a way that makes sense to where they don't have to decipher it, puzzle it together, all that stuff, then you're not doing your job. But this clearly demonstrates that there was a severe drop-off the minute they stopped giving scouting reports to the players about the opposing pitcher. You can't go up there blind. You can know their repertoire, you can know what pitches they throw, but at the end of the day, how they do it is a whole lot different than what they do. What they throw is a whole lot different than how they get their outs. That's the question that they should be asking. That's the first thing that they should be looking into is, how do these guys get their outs? And what pitches do they use to do it? I'm Mike Trout, and so I'm going to go up there and face Logan Webb of the Giants, right? And I'm going to say, well, what's Logan Webb done well against, I don't know, Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, right? You want to look into that kind of stuff. Oh, he throws that sinker in this spot because that's how he gets guys to right? It's silly stuff like that. We talk about it all the time. So I hope you feel like a smarter fan when you tune in to Locked On Angels, because that's really what we want to do here. I think it's really interesting to look into the why behind the what. What's wrong with the Angels? Well, let's talk about why, right? And that's where Baseball Savant, StatCast, Fangraphs, all that stuff comes into play. And to withhold that from the players, I think, is doing them a huge disservice. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all your money go? You can dine out, do some online shopping, and all of a sudden, you lose track. And that's never a good feeling. That's where Monarch Money steps in. They are your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. And you can stop managing your money and start building your wealth. It makes financial conversations about money with your partner so much easier and smoother than ever, because you can track shared and personal accounts. You can set goals together, stay on the same page without the stress. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and you'll get half off your first year. Hey, you know, the Angels hitters may be struggling. They had a little light at the end of the tunnel in yesterday's game. Again, 10 hits is great, but now we're back to where we started with, yeah, but you really didn't come through with runners in scoring position, did you? That feels like here we are again. You know, time is a flat circle, right? They might be struggling, but somebody who's not struggling lately is Christian Moore. He's been getting hot down in the minor leagues. In fact, things started kind of slow for him when this season began. Through the first 13 games, he's batting 156, 264 on base, only a 178 slugging. That's not very Christian Moore-like. A 42 weighted runs created plus, 34% strikeout rate, 13.2% walk rate. That's actually really impressive to have the walk rate that high, but it is in the minor leagues. Over the 3 weeks that he's been playing, his average has gone from 136, 174 the second week, then to 300 the third week of the season. In fact, his OPS on base plus slugging was 451, down to 433, and then 1,081 in the most recent week of the season. A weighted runs created plus, I told you that first week, 42, or I'm sorry, yeah, the first week of the season, 47 weighted runs created plus. It's up to 214. He's 114 times better, percent better, I should say, not times, 114 times percent better than league average. Can't get it out of my head. Maybe he is 214 times better. There you go. But here's what jumps out to me. The strikeout rate in his first week of play, 30.8%. He's gotten that down to 22.2%. And we all know that Christian Moore's struggle has been the breaking ball. It's something that he swings through. He swings and misses a lot. And to me, that tells me he's making a step in the right direction. In fact, over the last 6 games, 300 batting average, 481 on base, a 600 slugging, a 214 weighted runs created plus. As I mentioned, I couldn't get that number out to you. 4 extra base hits, a 22.2% K rate, a 25.9% walk rate. He also hit his first home run this past Tuesday. So with the offense struggling, somebody like Kyron Paris struggling to not strike out. He got off to a awesome start, and now he's been really terrible, unfortunately. And I hope that Kyron Paris can turn it around. I would hate to see him, get demoted. Well, I shouldn't say that. I would like to see him go to AAA and work on some things, but only if they have somebody who's a suitable replacement. And he's been playing second base a lot in the absence of Yoan Moncada over at third. So Rengifo's over at third. I just explained earlier in the first segment why Rengifo's just been not great over there at third. Lots of sloppy defense in the past few games. So is there a scenario where Christian Moore comes up to the Angels? Would it be soon? And should the Angels do this? 2 years ago that Zach Neto came up to the bigs because the Angels defense was terrible to start the season. And they needed to figure that out. They had some combination of Gio Urshela at short. I forgot who else they had playing. Maybe it was Rengifo at short too. In 2023, that was the year we had Urshela and Hunter Renfroe and those guys, right? And so it just was not working out. Team was good. And, they were in contention at the trade deadline. That's why they didn't deal Ohtani. They were trying to get back into the race. And then they made all those trades and it just absolutely fell apart. It was kind of comical how quickly it all fell apart, but only the Angels, right? But I bring up Zach Neto because the defense was terrible in 2023. They needed a spark. They needed something to change. And Neto provided that for a while until he got hurt. And that was just wear and tear of a guy who had never played in the bigs before. Could they do the same thing with somebody like Christian Moore? Now, I know he's not glove first. He's definitely bat first. And you wonder how he would handle major league pitching. So it feels like if the Angels were to do this, it might be a desperate move to counteract the lack of offense they had lately. Maybe things have turned around. Maybe Wednesday's game against the Mariners was a sign of things to come. They do have 26 games in the state of California this month coming up. So, I don't know, man. I think that bringing up Christian Moore right now would just be a Band-Aid to solve your offensive problems. Because the guy has a lot of growth that needs to take place, especially defensively, but also, look, I know he's improved on that K rate. Let me see that come down some more. I want to see that go down. That walk rate, that's pretty substantial. I want to see if it's real, right? And so, yes, he's had a great third week of the season. But don't the Angels always do this? They need some kind of spark plug. Why can't you just start the season with your spark plug? Hey, how about that? Right? Kyron Paris was that for a little while. He was the one coming through clutch and keeping them in games and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes I just feel like, why can't you guys just have the answers before the season starts? Hey, if this guy's not doing great, then we can go to this guy. And if this situation happens or this guy gets hurt, then we can go to this guy. They never have a backup plan. Their backup plan is, we got to bring up Christian Moore. Look, nobody said that yet. Nobody on the team has said that. So I'm not going to put that on them. But it just feels like something they would do as a quick fix. I say, let Christian Moore cook. Let him sizzle. Let him marinate in the minors. Let him have his time down there. Let's see what's real and what's not. Because again, those first 2 weeks, not great. But now he's in a groove. Let him play it out. That's okay. That's what development's all about. And so it would be exciting to see Christian Moore. Don't get me wrong, I'm a fan. I would love to see him. But I know the right thing to do is to let him continue to develop in the minor leagues and see what sticks, see what needs to improve, and see if this offense is legit. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen, friends, you got to check out Locked On MLB Game Night. It's live after the last out of the last game. It's every game, every night, all season long. You can get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hey, be sure you give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and connect with Mike and I at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, get in the comment section. I want to hear from you. Friday on Locked On Angels, Mike will be back with us. Now, the Angels and Tigers do play tonight. However, it is a 4-game set. So we're going to recap all 4 games on Monday, and we're going to talk about all the things that happen in that series. Of course, we'll be on social media, tweeting about it and whatnot, and talking about it. But since it is the end of the month, we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in the month of April. It's May, everybody, and the Angels can turn the page, as Sosha would say. So we'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from the month of April. And then, of course, we'll recap that series against the Tigers on Monday. We hope you'll come back and join us. Until then, my name is John, and my brother Mike will be back with us on tomorrow's show. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you back here on Friday.